The opinions expressed are those of the host. The material is for informational purposes only. It does not constitute investment advice, and it is not intended as an endorsement for any specific investment. Visit crestmontpw.com for more details.
Welcome to the Ascent, brought to you by Crestmont Private Wealth. This is Sam McGee, and we have offices in Houston at One River Way and in Boerne at 604 South Main. Today, we have a special guest, and we are going to be talking about insurance. Everybody's favorite subject, insurance, right? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. David, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and what brought you to Boerne.
Oh, well, my name's David Arringdale. I was born and raised near Corpus Christi, and what brought me to Boerne was my wife and I lived in San Antonio for about 3 years, and the commute to work was about 30 minutes. And when we wanted to buy a house, we said, well, let's just expand the search area out 30 minutes from where we were working at the time. And Boerne happened to be it. That's how we settled in Boerne. We fell in love with it 10, 11 years ago.
That's awesome. Well, like anything else in your industry and in our industry in wealth management, everything's about relationships. And how I got to know David was actually, I think, through LinkedIn or maybe the chamber or maybe a combo of both.
I think it was a combination of all three, even Hill Country Family Services.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I serve on the board of Hill Country Family Services. Hello, Stacy out there, our fearless CEO.
She's
Love
fantastic.
her. That's right. So it was all three of those paradigms that came together, and here we are talking about insurance. I mean, how wild is that?
Everybody's favorite subject.
Everybody's favorite subject. I mean, we could talk about other things, less fun, but I think this is an important one. With a lot of carriers dropping out of markets in private insurance on the property and casualty side, and a lot of changes in the marketplace with insurance, I think this is a really good topic for our listeners because we have clients and listeners that are on the trailhead, just starting out in their financial journey. We have those on the Ascent that are mid-career, and then we have those that are at the Summit, which is really kind of near retirement, living off the portfolio. So when we talk about insurance at Crestmont Private Wealth, we don't do property and casualty insurance on the business side, and we don't do it on the personal side. We have a number of really good relationships with providers that are out there. Actually, I had another guest on the show not too long ago who works for Higginbotham, Trevor Knight. You're here today. You work at USI. And so this is not an endorsement. This is literally having folks on the show that know this line of work. And as we talk about all the time, you can't be an expert in everything. You can't. In the last few years, we've seen COVID, and then we've seen a return to somewhat normal and then back to normal, sort of a huge transformation of business and changes in business and supply chain and all these things that have been happening, shortages of things. And insurance is something that people pay for. They renew it once a year. And unless there's a problem or it doesn't pay, it's kind of in the background, right? So, David, give us an idea of some of the things that are happening last, call it 3-4 years till present, that you've seen in the industry. And it could be big picture, it could be, something really detailed, but something that listeners, as they're driving today or they're running or gardening or whatever they're doing, that maybe you would want them to know.
Well, I think with insurance over the last several years, it just depends on the type of insurance that you're talking about. So I deal with strictly corporate property and casualty insurance. Property is a huge issue right now. So when we have hurricanes that damage billions and billions of dollars around the country, insurance companies, carriers, they also have insurance. It's called reinsurance. So it's an insurance that insures insurance carriers for huge losses. When we see those billions and billions of dollars stack up, that is assessed every year, and then the costs have been increasing year over year for the last many years because of the hurricane damage. Billions of dollars in hurricanes and wildfires, that kind of stuff, it raises property costs on the corporate side and on the personal side. I'm assuming, I'm not a personal lines expert, but property as a whole has just gone through the roof.
Yeah, I can attest to that. It's been going up.
It's not
It's
fun.
been going up. there are more enjoyable things in life than renewal.
Yeah, absolutely. We were likely going to see another one of those because of Helene and the other hurricanes that happened this year. For those people who are curious about it, reach out to your broker and talk about the market. What's the state of the union, so to speak.
So tell us a little bit about what a agent does in that relationship. So let's just kind of take it to your, say, 90 days from renewal, 120 days from renewal, something like that, and you're either a business owner or you're a wealthy individual. What are the things you should be thinking about? How would you get organized? Like, what should you be asking your agency or your agent before you come up on renewal?
So I think that's where I like to be a bit different. And USI we're very different than a regular brokerage firm. But I have worked at another firm before this. And so I've got a little bit of perspective on that. Essentially, we're one of the three things in a company that can destroy the company. We basically do what's called game over work. So in your industry, you
game
do it
over
too.
work.
Yeah.
Wow, I like that.
So for a company, there's three people that can really, if they don't do their jobs correctly, the business goes under. It's their accountants, their attorneys, and their insurance agents.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I'd say IT for us as well. Cybersecurity is very important.
It's going to be probably the largest cost as far as insurance goes here in the near future, just because of how the attacks are coming. But what I think people should be thinking about when they come up to renewal is your agent shopping your coverage? Are they doing you a service? What's the loss control program design look like? If you have claims, what does that claims data look like? Are there better carriers for you? Are there better brokerage firms for you?
Let's dig into one of those things you just talked about. You said loss
control programs?
Loss control programs. Talk a little bit about what that is.
Right. So USI is very claim-centric. So we look at claims from a perspective of 60 cents on every dollar goes to claims. 40% of that goes to admin fees, taxes, and carrier profits. It depends on what type of insurance program you're on. So like a guaranteed cost versus like the full other end of it is a captive program where a single payer captive. You basically have your own insurance agency. But the less losses you have, the less cost overall, regardless of which type of program. And so being loss sensitive as a business owner should be a focus. Or if you have someone and your business is large enough, a loss control individual who focuses strictly on reducing losses.
So it's more about mitigation of risk inside your company. So we have a lot of business owners in the Ascent and in the Summit, some at the Trailhead. And one of the things that I see with business owners that makes them great, but also can be a bit of a challenge, is the control factor. So business owners are typically successful because they have built something, they want to protect it, and control is very important to them. And so, David, talk a little bit about the element of control that the business owner has when it comes to underwriting risk.
Yeah, certainly we get this question a lot, or we get this comment a lot, we don't have any control. Typically what you find is like what we call a guaranteed cost program. You pay a certain amount of money every year and they cover all the costs, and you don't really know. It's sort of on autopilot. The worst thing you can do is pay for an insurance program that you don't really know anything about, and then it doesn't cover you when you really need it. Insurance can be done and should be done a lot better than that. You need to have a relationship with your broker. You can have a lot of control over your coverage. Where we see that most of the time is in middle to large type businesses. Smaller businesses, less control. But yeah, as your premium dollars go up, the more control you have. And if you are spending a lot of money on insurance, definitely have the conversations, develop a relationship, make sure that if you are reviewing it, review it with your board, your team, have questions, have them answered. If you don't have any of that stuff, then there's something wrong.
Yeah, I think that comes down to communication. So if you happen to be that business owner out there that really is serious about running your business the right way, spend the time to sit down and communicate. Communicate with your agency, your broker, about what your risks are, what your risk mitigation factors are, what you're worried about. I think at the end of the day, a close relationship with an agency that is going to help you underwrite those risks, you end up having a degree of control, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and if your broker doesn't have the answer, they can always get on the phone with an underwriter with you. that
Right.
will have the answer.
Well, I think a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, you
So-
can tell, hey, I want to have a conversation with my underwriter.
Yeah, and that's specifically to corporate, probably less so on the personal side. It's a little bit take it or leave
less,
it.
yeah.
Great. So, David, when we visit with our clients at Crestmont Private Wealth, insurance does come up because we do have business owners that are
Sure.
clients. We have individuals, wealthy families, and insurance is a part of it's just a required piece of life. Take us through two things as we wrap up here. On the personal side, are you seeing individual families that are able to go to the various carriers in your network or the other agencies that are out there? And are the spreads between all those programs on the cost of insurance wide, or are they narrow? Meaning ABC insurance costs the same as XYZ insurance? Are they all pretty much priced the same? Or are they, vastly, vastly different? And on the corporate side, if you're a business owner insuring like a massive factory full of workers and different things, is there a benefit to reviewing this? In other words, is the marketplace dynamic enough? Is it worth reviewing every year?
For some lines, yes, and some lines, no.
Oh,
right.
interesting.
So when we talk about your personal lines, I'm not a personal lines expert, but I deal strictly with another personal lines agent. I see a huge gap sometimes with him when we're talking about, where they were when I introduced them, and versus where they are after he's done.
In terms of the total premiums paid and the coverages and everything, right?
Yeah. Our goal is always to get you the most fair premium you can get with the best coverage you can get.
Makes sense.
I would assume that's for most insurance people.
Makes sense.
On the corporate side, it doesn't change at all from one broker to another. Carrier to carrier, all of the risks are going to be underwritten. So it's all going to be analyzed by multiple people.
Oh, wow.
Generally speaking, for USI, we pre-underwrite things. So we have underwriters that work for us that look at the risk and say it's worth this. And then we send it out to market with those benchmarks saying, hey, we think it should be at this. If it comes back drastically different, we go back and say why.
Wow. So that's interesting. So even just sitting here and talking about this, I didn't realize the difference in dynamics between personal lines insurance and how that's priced, which would make sense that there's a wide range of maybe premium and appetite by carriers versus corporate insurance, which sounds like it's a little bit more curated, a little more customized, and then a carrier will actually underwrite that risk. This is why I love this show, is that I bring on guests and then I actually learn something too. So I hope you listening have learned something today. Today we're talking about insurance. We're talking about probably one of your least favorite subjects because nobody likes stroking that check, whether you're a business owner or an individual each year. But the reality is you have to protect what you have built. You have to protect the what ifs, and you've got to protect your family. This is the Ascent brought to you by Crestmont Private Wealth. You can reach us at CrestmontPW.com or email us at info@CrestmontPW.com. We are to be found at 604 South Main in Boerne or One River Way in Houston. Today we are talking about insurance, personal side and corporate side. And if you've learned something about this and you want to talk more about it, shoot us an email. We'll get you in touch with David or any number of other agents in the area. There's some really good ones. But David, how would they reach you if they wanted to reach you?
Best of all is LinkedIn. It's David Arringdale. It says in San Antonio, but I live in Boerne. But yeah, my office is in San Antonio.
We're really excited that you were able to join us today on this beautiful morning. And hopefully those of you that are listening today are experiencing great weather and not experiencing the risks we talked about. Hope you have a great rest of the weekend, and God bless.